Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time, and I'm following up on the previous breaking news alert announcement with yet another important update. Just to remind you about the previous breaking news alert, the President of the United States has suggested that the November elections should be delayed. He's thrown that thought out there. He's teased that thought with his recent tweet from a couple of hours ago from this morning. That's number one. Number two, the US GDP, the US economy has seen the most significant decline, a massive 10% drop in consumer spending, especially services. So consumer spending on services has gone down more than 13%. Consumer spending on goods has gone down about 3%, and business investment has gone down 7.5%. This is the most significant decline in the GDP since they started taking records. And number three, unemployment numbers have actually started to go up. The weekly unemployment numbers have actually started to move upwards after they had seen a downward trend. In this video, I'm going to actually compare the HEALS Act that was suggested by the Republicans with the HEROES Act that was passed by the House by the Democrats a few months ago. I'm going to stack them side by side so you can see the difference in ideologies between the two sides. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the latest status of the negotiations that are going on right now with the White House and the Republicans and the Senate and with the Democrats. So that's where things stand right now. I'll give you those breakdowns. Also, I want to say one more thing. I am noticing that about 1% of my subscribers are like, give me the breaking news and tell me what's the bottom line and tell me when the bill's going to get passed. I'm sorry to say, but if you're impatient and just waiting for the bottom line, you're not going to be able to understand the full picture and you're not going to be able to plan a few steps ahead. I'm just being completely honest with you. When the world is crashing down, when things are falling apart, it's really important to not just plan for the here, it's important to plan for the future, which is what this channel is about. What I do is I read between the lines, I see the signs and help you plan a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead. And again, I know that a lot of us are struggling with immediate needs, but I have much bigger goals, much bigger aspirations for my viewers. And again, in the short term, it is going to get bumpy. The reason I do these alerts so fast is I want to give you the information, but I want you to plan ahead because that is my aspiration for all of my viewers. Let's quickly break down the HEALS Act with the HEROES Act, which will give you a quick idea of where the two sides stand. With the HEALS Act, you have $300 billion in funding for Stimulus Checks 2.0, which sort of follow the same guidelines as Stimulus Check 1.0, except that now it's $500 per adult dependent, which was not the case in the previous CARES Act. And in comparison, the HEROES Act actually had a $1,200 check, a $1,200 stimulus check per dependent, but that was limited to 3 dependents as far as I know. So again, let's break down the HEALS Act with the HEROES Act. $300 billion in the HEALS Act, Stimulus Checks 2.0, $300 billion for tax breaks and a retention credit to encourage businesses to bring employees back to work, $158 billion towards the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program and Help for Industries, $111 billion towards healthcare spending, $110 billion towards unemployment benefits, and $105 billion towards education spending. Let's compare that with the HEROES Act. By the way, the price tag of the HEALS Act is right around $1.2 trillion. And the price tag of the proposed HEROES Act was $3 trillion. So the HEROES Act suggested $1 trillion in state aid, local and tribal aid. And by the way, there wasn't much of an emphasis on state aid in the HEALS Act. Again, actually, before I go into this, you'll start to see the difference in priorities between the two sides. You know that the Republicans are sort of in favor of business and the Democrats are essentially have a slightly more, for lack of a better phrase, socialist perspective. So the $1 trillion from in the HEROES Act towards state aid, local tribal aid, $435 billion to extend unemployment insurance in full through next year, $430 billion for Checks 2.0. By the way, you can see that that's a consensus between two sides. So the next stimulus check is going to happen 100%. The president will sign it, as soon as the two sides can figure things out. And by the way, I was the first person on YouTube to actually confirm the second stimulus check based on a hint that I got from the president. $380 billion in health aid, $300 billion in business aid, $300 billion in tax benefits, $200 billion in hazard pay for essential workers, and $200 billion in rental and housing aid. So as you can see, you know when you just stack the two side by side, as you can see when you stack the two right next to each other, you can see that one has a lower price tag and is primarily focused on businesses. The other has a significantly higher price tag and is focused primarily on individuals, on unemployment benefits, on states, and then the business aid and the tax benefits are lower down in the list, because the way I've stacked them up for you on your screen right now is the higher priority items, in other words, the more expensive items in each, the HEALS Act as well as the HEROES Act, are stacked at the top. So it is in descending order of a dollar amount allocation, if you will. Now, let me quickly tell you about the current state of the negotiations on Capitol Hill. This is where things stand right now. At the moment I'm recording this video, there is a total negotiation standstill. There is a need for urgency from the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. There's resistance within the Republican Party. There's even at this point, yes, there's resistance between the Republican Party towards certain aspects of the HEALS Act. The President and the Senate Majority Leader absolutely want a deal. And we know the Democrats are fighting for what they want. So the important part is the President and Senate Majority Leader want a deal. And an alternative unemployment insurance proposal from Senator Mitt Romney. Okay, so let's jump right into this. As far as the total negotiation standstill is concerned, the two parties remain very, very far apart. Even after some intense meetings and negotiations, all parties have declared their differences, and they say that at the moment it's irreconcilable. And Democrats shot down the idea of a short-term fix for unemployment insurance and the eviction moratorium, which President Trump had said that he would support. The two parties are very, very far apart right now, and each side is, as we record this, blaming the other side for the failure. And they said that the talks could get back on track in the next day or two. By the way, we only have less than 48 hours at the time I'm recording this video. I would say about 24 hours at the time I'm recording this video. But the signs as of right now are not promising. These are words from the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. I don't know that there is another plan other than no deal. Again, the White House Chief of Staff said, I don't know that there is another plan other than no deal, which will allow unemployment, and he's referring to enhanced unemployment, I might add, to expire. No deal certainly becomes a greater possibility the longer the negotiations go. So he said the longer this thing drags on, the harder it's going to be to extend unemployment. And Mark Meadows also said we are nowhere close to a deal. And Chuck Schumer said, our Republican friends don't seem to come close to meeting the moment. They've put us against the wall. We have two cliffs because they wouldn't negotiate for months. So this is where things stand. We're talking about negotiations between Mark Meadows and the U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin on one side. By the way, they are the lead negotiators on behalf of the White House with the Democrats. And then you have Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi from the Democratic side on the other end. Then let's talk about the need for urgency from the Federal Reserve Chairman. The Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell specifically said, and these are his words, on balance, it looks like the data are pointing to a slowing in the pace of the recovery. So basically what he's saying is things are slowing down, and he's right, because if you look at the GDP, the economy, the data that just came out this morning that I alluded to earlier and in my previous breaking news alert, and if you look at the unemployment numbers which are rising, things are actually slowing down right now. And he said, I want to stress it's too early to say both how large that is and how sustained it will be. He's referring to the reduction in the pace of the economy, and I believe he's saying that because when some sort of a medical solution comes out, we could all be surprised and things could bounce back pretty quickly. But right now, the picture is looking pretty gloomy. And Powell also said lending is a particular tool and we're using it very aggressively, but fiscal policy is essential here. As I've said, more will be needed from us, and I see Congress is negotiating now over a new package, and I think that's a good thing. So the Federal Reserve is just a lender. They are not a spender. The US Treasury is the spender. But the allocation of the money comes from Congress. So the way our system works is Congress allocates the money, the Senate creates a law, creates a bill that is then signed into law by the President. The Federal Reserve essentially lends the money, or in other words, prints the money digitally. And then the US Treasury Secretary takes that money that's been credited to it from the Federal Reserve and then starts to distribute it via stimulus checks, via paycheck protection programs, via Main Street lending programs, economic injury disaster loans, and that's the way our system works. I have done another detailed training video that you want to check out on how the US government gets money and how the US government spends money. I've also done another video that I think you will find extremely fascinating on exactly where the stimulus money is coming from. In other words, how the Federal Reserve is actually printing money and whether that's going to have an effect on inflation. So you want to check that out. Believe it or not, there is resistance within the Republican Party about what's going on right now. So Senator Mitch McConnell said in a PBS interview that there are about 20 20 GOP senators who would prefer to take no additional action at all because of concerns about the growing federal debt, because of the concerns about the growing deficit. And Senator John Cornyn, who's a Republican from Texas, said there's no consensus on anything. And he also said, this is a normal, I quote, a normal part of the catharsis that goes with actually getting to the solution. And then he added, we are far away right now. So right now, that's where things stand. McConnell is leaving negotiations with Democrats to Trump administration officials, specifically Mark Meadows and US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Now, it's clear that the president and the Treasury Secretary do want a deal. And Schumer said they're tied in a total knot because of the disunity in their caucus, because of their inability to gather votes, because the president says one day, he says another thing the other day. We want to come back and keep talking to them, but they don't have anything to say. Now, McConnell was optimistic, and he said in an interview a few hours ago on PBS NewsHour saying, hope springs eternal that we'll reach some kind of agreement either on a broad basis or on a more narrow basis to avoid having an adverse effect on unemployment. So as you can see, the unemployment benefits component is important to Trump. And I did mention this, Trump did call for a quick fix to address the unemployment benefits and eviction moratorium, saying that other issues could wait. His exact words to reporters outside the White House were, the rest of it, we are so far apart, we don't care, we really don't care. Words from the US president. The Democrats have been sort of excoriating that approach, and they say that we need a comprehensive bill. They do not want anything piecemeal, and neither does Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And he insisted that any bill should include a 5-year liability shield for businesses, healthcare providers, schools, and this is a non-starter for Democrats. And finally, let's get into an alternative unemployment insurance proposal from Senator Mitt Romney, who's a Republican from Utah. He proposed a plan that would allow states to choose one of two options, either a jobless benefits supplement that amounts to 80% of the initial wage, or a sliding scale that would amount to an additional $500 per week in August, $400 per week in September, and $300 per week in October. Now that's super interesting because that gives people help when they need it the most, and then it starts to phase away as the economy starts to improve, as hopefully, I use the word hopefully, we get this pandemic under control and gradually businesses start to reopen, because what is happening right now is not sustainable. We need to get back to a normal world. We need to get back to reality. So this is a pretty interesting, I believe it's an intelligent, and I believe it's a well thought out proposal, and I wish there were more voices of reason out there, but we have two hardline positions on either side right now, with over 20 million individuals stuck in between. That is what we have right now. I'm also going to talk to you about how I think you should prepare and what I think makes the most sense towards the end of the video. And so let's see. So we have Trump's push for an eviction on the extension moratorium came even though the GOP legislation, that the HEALS Act, did not include it. Keep in mind that the eviction moratorium provision, which was in the CARES Act, shielded 12 million renters nationwide from eviction, but it already expired a few days ago. And Larry Kudlow, and I did cover Larry Kudlow in other videos on my channel, he initially mentioned that, hey, there is an extension of the eviction moratorium, and then he issued what he called a clarification and said that no, this pertains to forbearance for homeowners, which was already part of the CARES Act anyway, and he said that that's going to be extended. But he said, I need to issue a clarification, and the eviction moratorium is not extended, but the $1,200 stimulus check will help them. He actually said that. So you want to go back in my channel and find that interview and watch that interview. Now, here's something that I want to wrap up with. President Trump insisted Wednesday he would continue to demand nearly $1.8 billion with a B. By the way, just so that you know, the HEALS Act has $110 billion with a B towards unemployment benefits, and President Trump wants wants right around 2% of that, which is $1.8 billion, towards a new FBI building at his present site near its hotel in downtown Washington. Now, I want to be clear, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and others have opposed the inclusion of the FBI headquarters provision. And then here's what Trump said, and I quote, then Republicans should go back to school and learn. They need a new building, and we can do it very easily. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the latest news from Ignition Time. Now, when I started this channel, I want you to track with me here, because this is going to be very important, because one day all of this madness is going to end. When I started this channel, my goal was to help you become stronger financially. I've been giving you information that is breaking news, and I'll continue to do it. But I, again, have bigger goals, bigger aspirations for all my viewers, all my subscribers. And for those of you who are interested in information that is more than just news, more than just what's happening now, when am I getting my check, what's happening now, when am I getting my check, what's happening now, when am I getting my check. I want you to have savings. I want you to be financially free. I want you to learn how to invest. And I want you to have a strong, happy, productive future. Whether you do your own job, whether you start your own business, whatever you want to do. I am going to help you achieve that because that's what I've done myself. So for those of you who are struggling to just pay your bills right now, who are on the verge of homelessness, I'm with you. I feel for you. I care for you. I do this channel because I love my fellow Americans. For those of you, please do what you can to get through the next few days and few weeks, because this is going to get really bumpy. And I do believe things are going to get worse before they get better. I have no doubt. My confidence in the long-term future of our country is unshaken. Okay, that won't change. But things are going to get really bumpy. For the rest of you, if you have some savings, continue to build your cash position. Last Wednesday, I beg your pardon, I liquidated all my stock market positions. I sold millions of dollars worth of stocks. It took me 2 hours to liquidate all the stock positions. The reason is I believe the next 2 or 3 months are going to get really bumpy with the election coming up. The president proposed a postponement of the elections. I believe that the numbers of the economy, I believe the GDP numbers are going to be really bad. And even if and when the unemployment benefits get extended, I say if and when, even if and when the unemployment benefits get extended, the stimulus checks go out, the underlying structure indicates, the signs underneath indicate that things are going to get bumpy, very bumpy in the next 2 or 3 months, and I have prepared for that. I'm in a cash position right now, and I recommend that you be in a cash position right now as well. Not because you want to buy stocks and make profit overnight. Nope. So that's not what I'm saying. I want you to have a financial buffer so that you can be hopefully less stressed about money going forward. Those are my longer term goals, my longer term aspirations for my viewers. I want my viewers, my subscribers to be happy, to be healthy, and to be financially secure. As we get through the next few days and weeks, and I'm still optimistic about some sort of a consensus coming out at some point in the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm still optimistic. But beyond that, the bigger objective, the bigger idea should be to say, holy moly, I've been working all my life. I've been independent. I've been self-sufficient, and now all of a sudden I'm depending on the government. None of us, not one subscriber out there wants that. I'm with you. I'm with everybody here. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Please click the like button below if you learned something new from this channel. Please subscribe and enable notifications so that you get instant updates going forward. I release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. Get your cell phone out, and if you want to get breaking news and alerts from me, please send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. And then you'll be added to our alerts list going forward. You can opt out at any time. Thank you so much. Please click like below. Please click subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.